Hey, it's Adam Calzetti here, and we have a super exciting episode of ENTA Asks. I have here with me Kevin McEachern, who's filling in with Caitlin Boy.
We have Mexsig on set with us today. They're going to take us through all the ins and outs of project construction. Get ready, they have a lot of stories to tell us that are fantastic. So here we go.
Get rolling. We have a super exciting episode here today. We're going to talk about construction. Who doesn't want to talk about building cool stuff? So with us today, we have Sigfrido Pacheco-Vega, who is the president of Mexsig Construction. And we have Brenda Pacheco-Vega, who is the general manager. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah.
Excellent. So last time we talked about how Sigfrido literally wrote a book about construction management because he just saw that it was just not being done the proper way in a lot of instances, right? So you just felt like you had to make a difference in that way. And now I think you've got some stories for us, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing with the amount of complexity that you had in some of those projects and the high risk, that you've got some amazing stories you might want to share with the audience.
For sure, yeah. It's interesting. Every project that I have been involved with has had some level of complexity, but truly I've been involved with some of the most complex projects that I know of. Some of them involved mostly industrial plants, and those have been interesting, but also in some instances dealing with healthcare and joint use facilities between an institutional client and the provincial health services organization. And so for example, one instance, we had a project that took literally about a year of planning to do a single day of work.
Wow.
And it was interesting because we had to plan how to avoid impact to animal care facilities. We had to plan how to maintain cooling to -80 freezers that were distributed all throughout the floor plate. This was in joint use facilities. And we also had to rework completely parts of the electrical system. And so it was planning a big shutdown. We had to relocate some electrical components before we even got into the main work, which was cleaning a bunch of tanks. And so it was quite striking how when you're so safety focused, you need to pay a lot of attention to detail, and you really just cannot, fly by the seat of your pants. And so in that instance, what happened is I spent a considerable amount of time just finding the right people to help us with specific portions of that scope. And when we put together the entire plan, I had a team of about 20 people that were working in this big shutdown, and part of that involved, as I said before, relocating some electrical components, then cleaning a bunch of tanks that had not been cleaned since, 1960 or something like that. So they had been opened for about 40 or 50 years. And so, actually more than that, right? And
Healthcare toxic waste. So it's not to be dealt with lightly.
Yeah, no, it was a really interesting experience. But it also taught me a lot about, the importance of planning and the importance of defining all the scope ahead of time, and also defining all the elements and all the people that need to be part of your team. And it really brought home the need to focus on competence and on relationships as well, because you can have a great plan, but if you don't have people that execute correctly on that plan, then you're really going to struggle. And the other part too is if you don't have good communications with all your involved stakeholders, you can have some serious adverse events. And in our case, we were able to avoid issues with some of that animal care research that could potentially have lost millions and millions of dollars in research. So that one-day shutdown went extraordinarily well, and in fact led to a whole bunch of additional projects with these institutional clients. So it was really fun and very exciting.
Amazing. You're talking about these like -80 tanks and like animals and sewage waste. Like I just picture you guys like Ocean 11 sitting around like, and what else? And what else? What else? Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Yeah.
There is a lot of planning for that
right?
heist for sure.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because just like you said, what else? You are always asking those questions. And in fact, I think it is part of the value that we brought to the table, where, this institutional client that we were working for, their focus is focusing on education and, research and doing all of their day-to-day jobs. And they hired us to handle the complexity of creating those facilities or fixing those facilities when they're not working entirely, up to par, in a way that, number one, doesn't put the health of the public at risk, that doesn't, create potential for damage in the order of millions of dollars, and also in a way that just really avoids disruption as well, because disrupting the business of your client is one of the things that you should always strive to avoid, right? Because your client needs to either make money or provide a social good or a service. And as a result of that, you do require, a lot of care around avoiding disruption. And that is a huge focus for us. Yeah. So it's been fun.
I'm sure your clients appreciate that. The one thing you mentioned earlier that I really enjoyed listening to is how you talked about partnering with the right partners. Because I feel like a lot of people that do this type of work might be shy or not comfortable asking for help, right? And especially if there's that much liability involved. I think it's really great that you're like, you know what, we're gonna pull in some other people because we wanna make sure the framework we have for this is the right framework and that we're not gonna disrupt the client and things are gonna be done in a safe manner. So I think that's really great, because I know a couple of people that, they'd struggle with that. They'd be like, no, I got this. No, you don't got this. No, I got this. You don't got this, right? So I think that really speaks to how important the project is to you and how important it is that it gets completed safely and on time, reducing risk.
Yeah, that's very
factors,
true.
Right? Yeah.
You got it right on the money. And in fact, I do want to give a lot of credit to Brenda, because I have always been very focused on the technical side of things, on being competent, on hiring competent people, on focusing on doing the right things. But Brenda obviously has always been very good at helping with the softer side of things, with, involving people, making sure that we reach out to the correct stakeholders and making sure that we get some feedback from other parties, as well as ensuring that we keep communications flowing. So she helps me be on track on
building those relationships.
And building relationships.
And not just in the workplace too, right? Like building those relationships outside of work, because then you really get to know the specialists that you're working with, I think.
And that probably improves the amount of communication quality that's happening as well, because as you start to build that trust, that communication just becomes a lot more fluent. And when you say something, they're starting to get to know you, so they kind of know what you're saying, right? And they're gonna be like, what did you mean by that, right? Because you built that relationship, so that's really great. And by the way, I will say relationship building is a hard skill to learn. So I know we have this habit of calling relationships like soft skills. I believe they are the hardest skills to learn. Because people are pretty complex, right? So I think this is a really good synergy the two of you have, where you can lean into each other's strengths to get the project done in a really great way. From soup to nuts all the way up, it's completely put together nicely. So that's awesome.
Well, it starts at home and then grows with the
I was gonna say
team, right?
Right.
Yeah. That helps, because when the project means a lot to you personally as well as professionally, everybody can come together to meet some of those hard deadlines too, right?
For sure. Yeah. And the other thing too is, I think we like to embody those values. So several times I bring my kids to work, obviously with their proper PPE and everything, but it's important for them to see what their parents do and to learn that things don't just get done by accident. You need to put a lot of effort into that, and you need to embody those values and show them to your kids as well. And that's important for us. The aspect about communications is definitely important, because one of the best things that happened to me was actually being under the tutelage of a really good friend. He was my boss at the time, but he came through the ranks through a general contractor. And in fact, he gave me a lot of understanding about why you need to respect general contractors, because they're very good at what they do. And interestingly, he was extraordinarily diplomatic. And in some instances, in this very difficult assignment that we had, if it had not been for his diplomacy skills, we could have probably lost the project. And so he did huge saves for the company. And it was quite interesting how he managed to establish such a close relationship with the main client liaison that really got us through very difficult times. So to your point, it really building those relationships makes a huge difference. And I was very fortunate to learn from him a lot as well.
And he still works with us today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Well, good people stick together.
Specific assignments that needs his expertise. So you need to continue those relationships too that you make.
Yes.
It's very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool because we talked about there's no job too big or too small, right? On the one hand, there's diplomacy, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on the line, right? Lawsuits, whichever can come out of it. And then on the other hand, just jobs that need to get done, right? Like you told me a story about sweeping floors till all hours of the night, right?
Yes, that was interesting. I was doing a theater for a university. Actually, it was a set of 3 theaters for the university. And in that instance, we had a very aggressive schedule. We ended up creating a really interesting strategy where we mixed the trades, and we were working with one trade in one of the theaters and 2 of the other trades on the other theaters. Then we switched them around, and there was a lot of hazardous materials that needed to be removed, long renovations, long procurement of IT equipment and video and all of that. And it was literally finished on the last day before opening for classes. And I was there with the last trade. It was the IT guys that were installing all of that. And as they were cutting into the ceiling tiles, I was literally with a broom behind them, just cleaning up. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we needed to do what was necessary to deliver the project on time. And we did. And it was a huge success that, in fact, led to a lot of work for my employer at the time because they were very pleased with the firm. Even though I was obviously leading the project at the time, it led to a lot of work, and then eventually it led to me becoming part of their selected roster of project managers that were external. So it really had very, very positive consequences for everybody, starting with the fact that this was a federal and provincially funded project. So if we didn't make the date, we could lose potentially all of the money that was assigned to that. So there was a lot of at risk. Yeah. And eventually it was considered probably the biggest success that the university has had to date.
No kidding.
Yeah, one of them anyways.
Wow.
I love that story. That's fantastic. Right? Yeah.
Still a great client today.
They are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So
they continue to give us a lot of work. Yeah. Which is great because again, to your point, it's about building those relationships, right? We're very proud about the fact that about 80 to 90% of our work is repeat business from clients that are satisfied with the work that we do. Mm-hmm. So we actually haven't had to do a lot of marketing because it's like once you get a client, then next time they go like, oh, I got another project for you. Sure, we'll be there.
Or
right?
What's the most complex, the most high risk, give that to Sig. Yeah, because he knows they are confident in how he can handle that on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like the quality of work you're doing is giving such great word of mouth that you are doing marketing. You're just doing marketing by just doing great quality work, right?
Thank you.
You're essentially in a really good spot for that. So it's great.
And you've done so much. You talked about theaters, right? You've talked about all sorts of projects, and you've also done industrial. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah, and municipal as well. So recently we did a project for a municipal client as well, which turned into 6 projects. And then for our industrial client, we are doing a big project where we're essentially helping them develop a whole bunch of project execution procedures so that they in turn can provide that framework to their own project managers for delivery of major projects, 500 million and up.
Gotcha. Wow. So you did such a good job. They're going to use you as the benchmark.
Well, we're setting it up. Yes,
We're
that's
working on
that's
that.
the idea.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's freaking fantastic. And you know what? I'm excited because you told us a story about how you took that, that level of delivery really to the next level. And I think next episode, we're going to talk about some of the municipal projects you've done there. But in the meantime, how can somebody get a hold of you if they want the best?
For sure.
Well, you can go to our website. It's www.mexsig.ca. That's MEXSIG. And you can also call SIG at 587-830-1371, or I'm the office number at 587-437-1371.